Things. Figure out why it becomes it's either going to down.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us today. Amazing. A couple folks struggling here. My name is Justin Gallo. I'm the Facilities and Administrative Services Manager here at the Daniels Fund. And I also serve as the Vice President of Education for the Denver chapter. Grateful for y'all being here. I think, as most of you know, right, like time is not always on our side, so it's just grateful that everyone decided to take that time out and join us today. Before we get started, just a couple of quick housekeeping things. Restrooms are located down the hallway on your left to exit the room. We are going to record today's presentation and put it on the chapter's website. You get a YouTube channel. And at the end, we'll share this as like a 4-question survey, a little QR code on his desk. We'll get you access to that. We'd appreciate any feedback that you guys have. So before I introduce Allison, who's going to be our presenter today, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about what you can expect from today's session. So it'll be a live demo. We're going to have chat. We'll be kind of bouncing back and forth between the chat GPT and the slideshow here. So yeah, a lot of what we're going to walk through kind of in real time, you know, how AI can be used in everyday work. Hopefully you'll be able to take these home and apply it as an example. Right? The goal really is to make it simple, like kind of lower any barriers and what do we say, and defy the mystique of AI. Because it's really pretty easy to use once you kind of use like a few basic principles with it. That's enough for me. I'd like to introduce Allison. Yes, Stuart. So Allison is the Grants and Strategy Innovation Officer here at the Daniels Fund. She plays a key role in stewarding the old Daniels mission, shaping strategic thinking across our 4-state region. She is also our AI it girl. I think that's fair. Really, not just us here at the Daniels Fund, really philanthropy in general. Allison is considered across one community thought leader. She's been helping other philanthropic organizations understand AI, its value, and how it can make an impact in their organization. I'm just going to brag about her a little bit. The last conference that she was at was a huge philanthropy gathering, like 162 people. People were sitting on the floor, tons of questions. So I'm really grateful that she had a lot of time and willingness to join us today. So please welcome Allison.
Part of that bio was also written by AI, so we're off to a really good start on that. But hi, so nice to meet you all. Like you said, I'm an AI it girl. I'm going to steal that. I usually call myself an AI enthusiast, and what I mean by AI enthusiast is that I love AI as much as I fear it. And because the Terminator and Sarah Connor haven't come back to stop me yet, I'm going to proceed and continue to kind of like play with it as I do, to kind of like give you some background information and maybe set the stage a little bit for you. I got started working in AI when I was at a really small nonprofit organization with an even smaller operating budget. So I needed to do the work of about 6 people, but I did not get any more salary and I did not get more hours in the day. So how do you figure out how to do more when you can't physically add another staff member, and I also can't multitask very well without using AI. So using ChatGPT kind of helped me be able to do that. And also, I'm not a math person. I don't do math very well. I prefer not to. I was a history major in college. So all of that I mean to say is like, we're not going to go through like what the algorithm and vectors on the back end of what an AI model is. We're going to talk about like how do you use it, how do you go through it, and show you exactly some of the ways that hopefully when you leave here today, you're like, rock on, this is great. I've got 6 different things I'm now gonna run through chat. Other thing, I always hated the professors that talked at me when I was in school. So please don't let me stand up here and talk at you. Please ask questions. Stop me in the between, shout them out, raise your hand, whichever. My goal is that this is a conversation back and forth. If there's something you want us to dive in deeper, or you've got some questions you want us to answer, please shout them out. My goal is that you get everything you could possibly want answered today about AI for part 1. Done. Does that sound good? Any questions? Fabulous. All right. Let's see if this clicker works. Boom, it does. This is the only math you're going to see all day today. This is kind of the math algorithm that works in the background when using AI. And when I say AI, I really just mean generative AI, which generative AI is your ChatGPTs, your Geminis, your Claudes, your Perplexities, any of those models. And literally what it's doing is pattern recognition. So literally it is taking predictive analysis and giving you what it thinks you want the answer to be. And I show all of this and explain it as AI is just math. And the only reason I say that is so when it messes up or it gives you a wrong answer or it hallucinates, I'm sure raise your hand if you've seen some of those crazy pictures or answers it's come up where it's making up a whole story, right? Yeah. Or we all heard the story about the attorney who used ChatGPT to write a legal document and it made up court cases, and everyone's like, how does that happen? It's supposed to be intelligent. It is intelligent, but it's using a process of predictive analysis. So it's looking at the words in the question that you're asking it and saying, I think it's going to want this specific answer. And it goes through every possible document it has available to it on the internet to find the patterns that match up with the question that you asked to give you the answer that it thinks that you want. And sometimes it's going to get it wrong, and sometimes it's going to be crazy outlandish because, again, it's just a math problem. It's the ones and zeros operating in the back. So we're going to kind of give you a couple of ways to go through that to where you can curtail that a little bit or hone it in a little, but that's just to say it's actually a math problem. It's not magic. It's not a fancy robot doing a bunch of crazy things in the background. That's why sometimes it's going to get things incorrect. Safe practices to remember. This is really like my liability clause that I get to put in my presentations of, hey, this is still something you're using on the internet. So be careful of what you put into chat. So my first big caveat or like red flag or like stop, do not pass go and collect $100 or $200 before you do this is try to get it in a closed environment if you can. And what I mean by a closed environment is us here at the Daniels Fund, we use OpenAI and we also use Gemini. We pay a special subscription level to make sure that the information that we put into the model is not being shared with the rest of OpenAI, and OpenAI doesn't get to learn from the information that we're sharing with it. Some of the key things for that is really we work with like scholars, and so these are minors who we have information about them, and we don't want that information going into chat. We don't want chat learning some of these things. So before you start putting all of your deep dark secrets into OpenAI to help you solve some very important problems, or you can be like some of the people out there who are using ChatGPT as their therapist. Think before you put it into the model, because if you're not in a closed environment, OpenAI owns all of that from you. So anytime you put something into ChatGPT, as soon as it's sent in there, that is now the property of OpenAI, and they can use it however they would like. They can learn from that information. They can have other people reference it as well if they would like. So I would say remove any of the personal identifying information. So you'll see some of the contracts and stuff that we're going to put up in here. We like crossed out the builder's information, or we have anonymized it. If you put it in a spreadsheet, take out the first and last name and just put numbers in it. So certain things like that that you can do to kind of safeguard yourself before you even think about putting it into chat. And then also using a private network or a private environment is something that's helpful. Any questions on that?
Does that include like if you like use chat like in a non-enterprise version, you created like an app that you would like to sell or use, can just chat technically on that app?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, so it's all in that small fine print when you do the terms and service agreements is if you are not paying for your own subscription within ChatGPT, everything is free, fair game and free game. That's the same thing with Gemini as well. And Gemini really kind of gets you a little bit because it comes with your Gmail account. You can just go in there and access it. But if you're not paying for the private version, enterprise version, you are not in a closed environment, and everything that you put in there is now Google's property, essentially, or you've given them permission to do whatever they want with the information that you send into it.
That answers my question.
Okay, great. Yeah. Any other questions on that? And with chat or with Gemini, it's not expensive. I guess it depends on the definition of expensive, but $20 a month for a closed environment to make sure that my information doesn't pop up on the New York Times and I have to click the sentence, "Your Honor, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Worth it to me. That's a small, I'm okay with that. It's a liability insurance that I'm all right with paying for.
What do you put in chat?
Well, so for example, like, in my own personal ChatGPT, I have a 15-year-old nephew who's going through some stuff, and I wanted some advice on how to operate through a Medicaid system, which I don't have good understanding of. And I'm happy that that's a closed environment, that's not going to necessarily be out there. Also, I didn't use his name when I was typing in chat. So like those types of things, like, okay, that doesn't need to be sent out. Or in our department, in the grants department, we have a lot of information that comes in with our grantees about what we wanted them to accomplish during their grant period. When we want to like analyze and say, hey, how is everything going in our amateur sports portfolio? And we want to see these different data points and accomplishments that they've had. We remove the actual name of the organization from that spreadsheet just because, Chat doesn't need to know exactly which of these organizations are doing what. So when it comes to like what does the AI model actually need to know to accomplish tasks that I want it to do, it really doesn't need to know any sort of personal identifying information. So it's almost just a good habit to get into to kind of just remove that from your process anyways to the best of your ability.
You can also use that as a prompt and tell it.
As we were discussing this, don't use, like, you need to talk to the chat like it is your assistant, not like it's a robot.
That's exactly
You
right.
can't just give it 2 words. You need to give it full sentences, full thoughts.
You're going to get to my next slide, which is perfect to segue into it. So here's a little list of some of the different ways that you can use chat. I feel like each of these are like building upon some of the different stuff, and we're going to actually go through each of these and show you exactly how you do each of them. But prompt engineering, one of the key things is treat ChatGPT like it is your assistant. That's exactly right. So one of the best ways to get more out of it is to think of it as if you had a new person starting on your team and you wanted them to complete a task for you, this specific one, what information would they need in order to do it? And if you got bad work back from this new person on your team, well, was it just their fault that they did bad work, or was it your fault for not giving really good instructions? Yeah.
It was their fault for doing really bad.
Sometimes. But a lot of times it's because we didn't give enough detail, or the parameters were too long, or you didn't get specific enough. So this is one of my favorite things to do with prompts is I have ChatGPT build my prompt that I use in a different thread to prompt it for something else. So I will say, hey chat, I'm trying to build a prompt to plan my 2-week vacation in France, in Italy. I want certain types of restaurants. I'm a millennial, so everything's gotta be Instagrammable. My budget is this. I want 4 days here, 3 days here, 5 days here. Now build me a prompt that I can tell ChatGPT how to do all of this research for me. And it will say, okay, cool. And then it'll write a prompt like this long with all of those specifics. And then I get to pop that in. That saved me 25 minutes of trying to figure out what I was even going to say. And one of the things I like to do too is I will go and say, ask me 5 questions that you need to give me a better answer. Or did I miss any information? Are there any other details that you need to know to do this task first? And then
Ask it what your blind spots are.
yeah. Oh, that's definitely a good one. It's like, what did I miss? What are my blind spots? When I'm doing like strategy documents, I will ask it to be contrarian and be really like kind of come at me a little bit to get into a deeper dive of stuff, or like what risks am I not thinking about? Or I will say, hey, if I were to present this to my board, what are 5 questions a board member would ask me? And that way it just kind of gets in slower and slower and slower and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I like to do one question at a time and really have that back and forth. So I really think of my GPT, I call him Chuck. Chuck is my assistant and Chuck is my thought partner and he's the guy who I brainstorm with. And so I really like to have lots of questions back and forth. I like to get feedback. I want pushback. I really want to be able to go through as deep as possible. And what's really nice is like, for better or worse, he doesn't have feelings, at least yet, not yet. He's not sentient, right? So I don't have to say super nice sentences of like, thank you so much for that answer. That was really great. Your work on this was really good. I appreciate it. However, this is not what I asked for. I get to type in wrong, do it again. It's perfect. And look, I still say please and thank you because when the AI overlords come and take us out, I would like to be the favor of it and not have the worst spot in the human slave hierarchy that will ultimately happen. But getting those quick responses enables me to do things faster, to think smarter, and to also like kind of get out of my own headspace, especially when we're doing that back and forth. Anything else? Yeah, please.
So one of the things I use for something like complex tasks or things that I'm not as familiar with, I use something called that flipped interaction mode.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you sort of write out what you're looking for, but then you end it with ask me questions one at a time about this role until we agree, and then ask your first question.
Yep.
And it's going to come back and start asking you questions that you can now, sometimes it's things you never thought of. And it's like, oh, okay. And you'll give it a response.
Yeah.
And eventually you get to the end. My maximum right now is I went through 85 questions on one.
That's a lot.
To get.
Did you like what the final product was? Were you really proud with like where it ended?
Yeah, it was. It was a lot, and I got or you could just go in and say, ask me questions, but no more than 5.
Sure.
If you don't want to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is that's been a phenomenal tool to have it ask you for things that just are probably not in your mind.
Totally. And as you have more interactions with chat, like even in different threads, it starts to pick up on your patterns. That's kind of the whole deal, is it loves patterns. It loves pattern recognition. It wants to be able to predict things as fast as possible and as best as possible. So it learns things about you, which means it can also be the opposite of you really, really well to get those answers better. Another thing I've started to do with my prompting or in my threads, ChatGPT allows you to do these things called projects, and you can upload documents into it and create like your own little mini knowledge base. And I have done that with documents with the comments that my boss put on it. And I have it learn the questions that my boss typically asks me about stuff. So I can karate chop in front of it and get ahead of all of those questions. And so now I have a little Luke project who thinks like Luke and kind of goes through all of my stuff
in the mindset that he will. And so I have been able to eliminate probably 5 or 6 back and forths on some of these big documents that we've put together because I put it through my pre-loop work and kind of get some of those thoughts and stuff going and have that other thought partner who's actually thinking like a specific person like I want them to.
Yeah, I'd say it's a great way for lessons learned too. With projects, if you run similar projects year over year over year, like start that as a project, right? And then this is what we did in 24. This is what we changed, this is what I didn't like, right? And just use that as a way to continue to build your projects, right? And improve what you're doing if those are repetitive projects that you.
You're right. All right, so example of a really good prompt. This is one we're actually going to put to test today. And this started as just a couple sentences that Justin put into ChatGPT and then switched it around and got this really big, beautiful thing. So let's get into chat. We kind of talked about all of these. So let's switch over to doing it live. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a contract evaluation. And we are going to first have chat write the prompt that we want it to do. So if there's specific things that when you're looking at contracts that you're like, I have to know if this is going to happen, shout it out. So that way we can put it in as we're building the prompt. And then we're going to upload an actual contract into chat. And it's going to provide all of the different information, risks and analysis. It's going to provide us an executive summary. And we're just going to go through each of the things.
Sorry.
Yeah, so here, go to this guy. Yeah, that one. And then he just exit out. And then, yeah, and then it goes to. Oh, all right. So, is there anything specific or unique that you think that you have to kind of acknowledge when you're looking at contracts? Everyone does standard contract evaluation, nothing special, nothing.
What kind of contract?
We are going to look.
So let's start with the elevator. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to look at elevator maintenance. Yeah.
So what building codes and regulatory requirements are in there?
Okay, go into grants. And then go into AI. Go to that one. Yep.
There.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna put in that fancy prompt. Boom. So now we're gonna run this through real quick and then we're gonna ask it questions back and forth and see what it says.
Plain language, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I don't know about your elevator contracts, but there's probably like 7 or 8 words that I have to look up what they mean.
Yeah.
Before I can like continue in the contract, so it also is a great way to just translate this to English. So look, I think you see within a matter of what, like 10 seconds here. That's like a 12-page contract that would probably take me, I don't know, maybe close to an hour to kind of get through, right? Depending on the terminology, the size of the print. And here you have all your key takeaways.
Want to scroll down so you can see?
So, yeah.
So it gives you kind of the brief overview.
Kind of more importantly, right? What's not? It's not. And then their full assessment here. Then it comes down to your costs, additional exposure, right? All those risks, price adjustment clauses, like the things that as a facility manager, right, you should be red flagging when you are looking at these contracts. Like, what's the risk to the organization? How does this impact me if something goes wrong, right? So that's generally what you're impact. So kind of gives you kind of the whole rundown here.
Keep going. Yeah, let's look at
So
all
your
this stuff.
flagged risks, financial, legal, liability, different exclusions, price of concern. So there's no escalation cap tied, right? Labor rates are annual increases, right? So there's a lot of stuff in that contract that wasn't necessarily that you could get caught in, right? Where, oh, what I thought it was this, but actually there's no cap on your labor rate, and we can change it whenever we want. So same thing here, right? What's your operational and finance impacts? And then I think importantly here, right, what's missing from the thing, right? So chat will has kind of a standard idea of what goes into an elevator contract. And they'll kind of say, okay, these are the things that you should be aware of and what it's missing. So there you go, a pretty good list, right, of what's not being taken into account this contract. And then kind of the overall recommendation from chat. Proceed with renegotiation.
Yep. And so I would say, like, one of the questions that I would ask too is like, to provide feedback, what are some things I should ask to be added into the contract to protect the organization?
That's like when people watch.
The pressure's on.
This is over.
Good news,
Oh,
GPT doesn't care.
I know that's my favorite part. Feedback is English.
To protect the organization. And like, here's the deal, it's not actually an attorney, right? As we know, because it makes up cases and does all of that, but like the whole point is like, it's here to augment your work or give you a little bit more time in your day. So you're not the person who's having to spend, like, I'm not a fast reader. A 12-page contract is gonna take way more time than I'd like to admit to. So having this as a first kind of run and being able to do each of these things.
So yeah, like it's gonna recommend add a cap on annual price increases. Pretty good recommendation.
And then I would say, okay, great. Put this in an email format that I can send to my boss about the recommendations and ask how to proceed. Yeah.
Oh, this is the free version, this is where it would cut you off.
If this was the free version, you shouldn't have even uploaded the contract
Well,
into it.
Well, see, and I should have, this is where like, you wanna make sure like you do the anonymous stuff, so you're not, we're not overall looking at this. I use Denver Elevator, but.
Justin, is this your current agreement with Denver Elevator?
This was before the revised agreement. So this was the agreement that they originally sent us. And then my chief of staff and I revised it. So we have a lot of those things included, like the annual caps. What's an emergency? How long is that callback, right? And like I don't know what you call them, like a mid organization, right? They're not a Kone or an Otis, right? Where they have a ton more legal stuff and a lot more things. So they're a little more open to that. When I sent back to them, we negotiated, I think they took 5 of the 8 recommendations they were okay with. And the 3 that they didn't take weren't really deal breakers to the contract. So yeah, it gives you that, like what you should exactly say back to them, how you should ask for it. Super easy, right? I don't have to think about it.
That's a super.
All I have to think about is, does this make sense for my organization and for what I'm trying to do, right? I don't have to do any of the writing, right? It does it all. It's my thought partner, right? It gets me 80% of the way there. And then I, as the human, right, I decide what that 20% looks like at the end, right? I tail different words like this, like sustainability is not a huge word that is liked upstairs. It's starting to. So like I try to take those types of words out and use different.
That's another prompt you could give it.
Sure, absolutely, right? And you can, like you said, like,
Also, if you wanted to make, like, so these are my custom GPTs, which is basically how ChatGPT is a GPT. These are custom GPTs that are certain brains that I have made for it to think in a specific way.
Yeah.
And one of them is HS speech writing. So that's Hannah Scandera, our CEO. I have a GPT that just writes speeches for her that sounds exactly like her. And what I did was I uploaded a bunch of the speeches that she already has done. And I gave it those specific parameters of like, don't use this word, don't use this example, always use this, don't use that. Or we have the DF comms, so that's a Danielsman communications. So I put our brand standards into that. And I put email examples of like big mass emails that we've sent out. So that way when we need an email that's going to be sent to all of the grantees or an invitation to an event, I put it through that because it already has that knowledge of what words we use, what colors we use, how we use this language. All of that is in the knowledge base. So I don't even have to give those instructions every single time. It's already built into those instructions. So it already knows that I don't like the word synergy, right? Like that I can't stand.
Elaborate better.
Collaborate is a
Lay it out.
you know, and so like things like that where I'm like, I don't want to sound in this specific way, I want to sound in this specific way. You can give it the knowledge to be able to do that by creating those custom GPTs.
Yeah, I have a Build GPT too, and I use it for org alignment, right? So like when I'm going to get funding, asking for funding from our leadership, right? I'm going to that thing, I put the Bill's book, like I have access to all his archives and records. So that thing is basically
Cheater.
a Bill Daniels thing. So I can ask it, what would Bill think about this, right? Or hey, I'm doing this big project, right? I want to use something that Bill is Bill related, right? He had this saying, and I use it all the time, and it's called the best is good enough for us. So whenever we go to like do a big replacement and they're like, well, that's pretty expensive, this is that, I'm like, well, the best is good enough for us, right? So use that, you know, I use it for org alignment. For me, it's huge, right? And it really helps me drive home the alignment between what I'm doing in the facility and the organization, right? So more buy-in from senior leadership equals funding for Justin's projects.
How do you build those? Like, could you drop like email threads in there with your boss?
Yeah, you want to build one right now?
Kind of.
Okay, let's do it. All
I
right.
have no idea.
So that's a project, which is fine. Project, so here, let's start with projects. Yeah, we can look at projects real quick. Because a project is very similar to a GPT. It's one of the easiest ways to start. I'd say it's like your entry level GPT. You would be able to it's basically creating like a mini knowledge base, right? So you would say, great, perfect, we're going to create this project. And you can give it some more information about what you want in it. But the key thing is you're going to go over to sources. And this is where you would add. And this is where you could upload, like if you had a bunch of emails that were like great examples of communication threads, or I did this for my little Luke bot that I've got down there. I did a lot of PDFs of the emails of our back and forth that I uploaded into there so it could see how he asks me questions. Or when I would send him a Word document, he always sends it back redlined and with comments. I would upload that into there. So that way you can get this kind of like good historical knowledge of like, these are the desired outcomes I'm trying to create based off of these X, Y, and Z things. So for you all, if you had like a specific checklist or criteria that you have to use every single time you're going through an RFP process, you could put that in there. You could put examples of when you received feedback from an RFP process and your boss gave you a whole long list of questions that they wanted to know about one of the potential vendors, you could throw that up in there and be able to give it kind of the information that you always want it to reference when it's giving you an answer, or those kind of like standard checklist things that you want it to go through every time it writes a letter, puts something in a memo. If you have templates, like we often have like super standardized things that we have to send memos out or notices out, or like a lot of what I do is writing stuff that goes into our board book. It has to be very specifically put into a specific template. I upload those templates in there, so it always uses that knowledge base.
Yeah, you can set rules, right? Like this is where you're continually building and setting those rules so that your prompt, right, is perfect. So when you put it in there, right, you're going to get back exactly what you're looking for.
So yeah, you
Less
would
back and forth.
You would upload exactly what like documents and stuff, so your brand guidelines, your standards, whatever, and then for your text input, you could type the specific directions of like, I always want you to speak in professional terms. I want you to always, use words such as this or words such as this. And then anytime you need to, you close out of it. Anytime you need to, have a specific question for that, it lives in this like universe. Okay. So if we go to explore GPTs, and then up at the top where it says my GPTs, we're going to click create. And we could make this GPT literally just the landscape RFP analysis GPT. We have a bunch of like landscape contracts that we were gonna have run in and build like a whole matrix, but we could make a GPT that all it does is analyze landscape contracts or RFPs. Okay, so this is where it's fun. What we should do is go to open another tab. Okay, and then open ChatGPT again. And then we're gonna ask it, we're gonna say, we're making a custom GPT to review and provide feedback on landscape proposals. Perfect. Build me a prompt to give this custom GPT. And this is really big. I would not suggest that we be this big, but let's just see what it does. And we can keep fine tuning and fine tuning and fine tuning.
I love that they fixed
Yeah. So here, from not even 2 full lines and not a single complete sentence from us, it's created all of these things that we want it to do. Scrolling. Yeah. Dig it. Tone guidelines.
concern, right? So
Yeah.
you can tell it what's your concerns, right? Typically, right, on an RFP, we're doing these because we're not happy with the service that we're getting, right? So you add that in there, right? The last vendor, didn't mow straightly, they didn't fix irrigation repairs in a timely manner. Put those pain points into this too, and that'll highlight that in your RFP as well.
All right. So let's go from, if information is missing, let's copy that all the way up. Yeah. Okay. There you go. You don't need to love this idea, so we'll make sure to delete that. Okay, and then go there. Boom. Okay. Actually, go back up. I would get rid of this whole sentence right there. That's the key, is to make sure, and I would get and then we can put this as your description. So I copy paste and put that up there. Yep, we can delete it from there. Okay. Conversation starters, that's just like, when you pop up ChatGPT and it says, would you like us to help do a research project or plan your next thing? So you could put, like, if you were to share this with your whole team and you wanted them to all use this GPT, you could have it say, the first conversation starter would be review this proposal and provide an executive summary. You could also have the prompt. Actually, let's do that. Go to that one. Type in there. Provide me 3 conversation starters for this prompt, for this GPT. Why would we do it? Why waste our own time trying to think of them?
So by 3 prompts.
Yeah. Great. And then we'll just copy paste those, put those in as the conversation starters. Boo, it didn't understand the instructions. Okay, so this is also, we probably should have said, instead of provide 3 prompts, we should have said, provide 3 conversation starter questions. So
They need to be short.
They need to be short. And so this is a good reminder that, like, bad information in is going to get bad information out. It's still.
It's still worth.
Oh, yeah.
I really need to town.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Can't wait to use that at some point. All right.
Quickly scroll past that.
Yep. Great. So much better. Yeah.
So remind me again why you do the project versus just doing it all in the regular.
Yeah, so great question. Doing a project is like if you have a ongoing and like growing task that you need to do. A project is better for that because it can grow upon itself. You can add more information into the folder to create its kind of knowledge base to be even
Save
more.
it all together,
Yeah, here you can exit out that one.
so you don't have to delete them
Yep.
and start again.
And that way it lives in there forever. So that's like we're working on use sports giving day. Oh, I would wait. Yep. So let's do cancel or yeah, exit out. We're gonna create because what we don't want. I'm gonna pause on your question real quick and then we'll go back to this. So the knowledge base is how do you want it to think? So we don't want to give it the RFPs that we have or the proposals that we have because it's going to think that that is the best option and that's a good thing for it to learn from. What you want to put in the knowledge base is how is it going to be a part of the decision-making process? We want to upload the proposals and have it give us thoughts on it. So I don't think for this, we need anything to add in. I would say if you have like a standard checklist of that all of your proposals have to include X, Y, and Z, that would be a great place to upload it. But for this specific GPT, I don't think we need to upload anything. We can scroll down. Keep all of that. And then I would say, let's press create up there, top right. And you can just update. So live in my universe. So the projects is something that you would want to do compounding things on, that it's building upon, it's something that you can constantly add to, and that it's like in the works. This GPT really is like a task master. So you're creating it to do one specific thing really, really, really well. And for us, this is going to be reviewing contracts. So say if you had, so an example here inside our building is we do this thing called Youth Sports Giving Day. And Youth Sports Giving Day includes a ton of different things from my team, from the communications team. There's a budget, there's press releases that need to be written. And I am constantly uploading more and more documents into it because that's how it continues to give me better answers on strategy or better documents that are written because it's a constantly evolving and updating project that is being worked on. A GPT is, I need you to do this one task and this one task really, really well. Those are the two differences. Okay.
Should we start the question?
Let's upload 4. Perfect. And then, boom, that. Okay.
It must not got on there.
COVID machine. Great, so we're gonna put those in. Open, yep. And now,
Maybe I need to let it load.
oh yeah,
I
you're
think
totally
I'm
right.
too fast. It's not fast enough.
Yeah, eventually when we all have the chips in our brain, it'll just think at the same rate that we're thinking. All right,
Okay, so there's the 3 uploaded now.
it's gonna run,
Seriously.
it's gonna run it.
Yes.
Sometimes that happens, so let's scroll down and see what it says. What does it put together?
So it gives you your bids, contract terms, your red flags. These are all from a handful of years ago.
Keep going through. So it's gonna keep assessing each of the different ones and it's gonna put each of them through this long form. When it's done thinking, we're gonna have it put it in a comparative matrix format. Because I'm not very good at reading things through a linear. I wanna see things compared all next to each other. So again, if you have a matrix that you all work in, you could upload that matrix and it'll automatically pop things into the format that you want. Or you can have it come up and create one. And you could compare these flower programs in detail, help you graph negotiation points. Ooh, that could be helpful. Help you score them objectively for board review. So let's say, let's do that one. And put it in a matrix form. Yeah, or anonymized. How to spell anonymized.
None of our business anymore.
Yeah, that's actually not my problem. It's not my problem. Okay, so it's gonna do a scoring methodology. Love that. Soup's helpful. And it's gonna do all of the scoring for you.
Gives you weighted if that's important. And obviously, you know, when you look at these things, you can say what's more important to me in my organization, right? And you can change, you can go in and you can change those things. You know, around here, like I'm sure a lot of you guys don't have grass to manage, but I have like an insane amount of grass. And if it doesn't look good, like there's an issue. So that's always a top priority for me. So whatever it is in your org or in your world, that's a priority. You can adjust all this as you go along. And it's pretty in depth, so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to learn all that? Like daily practice, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 months, or miss?
Yeah, I would say daily like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And like I did not take like a class or anything. I didn't even really investigate too much on YouTube. I kind of just trial and error back and forth with like, no, that's not right. I really wish that you would do this instead. And I would say with, you know, an hour a week, maybe an hour and a half a week, you could really get yourself into some better spots. I'd say too, my first kind of encounters with chat were really frustrating because it was super dumb. Like 2 years ago when I first started working with it, it was like sometimes running into a wall. And now it has gotten like GPT 5.2 is like astronomically better. Gemini, which is Google's version, is even better than ChatGPT. So because of that, it can do a lot more nuanced thinking. So it's not as like sluggish and like, I will write this paper for you. It's like, no, that's great. Ask me some questions first. And so having that back and forth is a lot better. But my suggestion would be pick like 3 things that annoy the bejesus out of you to have to do in your daily basis. And tell ChatGPT to create a plan to have ChatGPT do those 3 things for you. And it will write you the step-by-step plan on how it can do that. And figure that and basically go from there.
What's nice too is if you have a prompt that you really like and it's kind of honed in, you can ask to break it down. How would I recreate this prompt for something else? And then you can ask it can ask you questions.
Yeah.
Based on something you already have created that you like.
Yeah, and I have I use in my OneNote, I have a OneNote tab that is called my prompt to end all prompts. And that's where I keep like my mega prompts that I love and that I got amazing stuff out of. I copy paste the original one and I keep it like in my secure off network spot so I never lose them. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, did you guys have to develop like a policy, like an internal policy, how much you can use it? What can you use it for?
Yeah.
What is the limitations?
Yeah.
And how did you have ChatGPT
Yes.
Develop their policy.
Yes, there's a lot of like a snake eating its own tail thing that's gonna start to happen with ChatGPT, but yes, we did. So before we really embarked on our like AI journey here at the fund, our chief technology officer and the guys who run all of our server security and everything basically poked lots of holes in all of the different models to find which models had the securest enterprise or closed network versions. And that was step one, was picking which model we're all going to use, that they're confident by signing this contract and paying this amount of money to OpenAI that none of our information is going to be shared out of that network. That was step one. For us, it was OpenAI and then Gemini. We've just started working with the enterprise or corporate version of Gemini. The second step on that was we had multiple sessions, a lot like this, where all of the staff for the Daniels Fund came down here with their computers and we walked through how to use it, what to use it for, and what not to use it for. And really, a lot of it was about the anonymizing stuff, especially because we have scholars and we have grantee information. So it was really like, don't put things, again, that you would be worried about on the cover of the New York Times. Don't put any personal identifying information in there. It doesn't need to be in there. And we worked through some of those examples and had 3 training sessions before we really were like, all right, let's go, you're let loose. And then we also did even kind of a more comprehensive thing was those of us AI nerds who were already drawn to this and were organically interested in it, there were a couple of us in each of the different departments, and we basically spearheaded our own like enthusiastic trainings with our individual teams. And a lot of that started by, again, I asked people, what are the 3 things that you have to do that annoy you so much that if I could make a magic wand go and have ChatGPT do it, what are they? And then had them list those 3 out. And then I worked with them on how chat could solve that problem for them, because then that got buy-in. We don't really have any limitations on things that we don't allow chat to do or are like, no, you absolutely can't use it for that. Our biggest thing is like, again, this is to supplement and augment your work. So again, it's that 80%, you're still that 20%. So that was probably our biggest caveat is like, at the end of the day, you're still turning in your own homework and your own work. So probably read it before you send it out.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify, yes, exactly.
So I did notice that some people are turning in like resumes that are drafted by ChatGPT.
You can see it everywhere.
How are you leveraging the
Yeah.
AI to counteract some of that?
Totally, that's a great question. So we have been, so again, we get scholars, right? And these are high school seniors and juniors who are filling out an application to hopefully get a life-changing scholarship to send them to college. I would be upset if they weren't using AI and leveraging that tool to submit a really, really good application. However, we want to make sure that, IRL in real life, they are actually as, smart and well-versed as they say they are. So what we're doing with all of our scholarship interviews now is they have to answer an essay prompt in person before they go into their interview to make sure that they can do it. And that we can compare those 2 writing samples next to each other. Like, what can you do in 20 minutes versus what can you do when you have the entire universe to do something for you? And same thing with the resume things. Like, it is pretty easy to spot a resume that was built by ChatGPT versus ones that were actually written by someone who took the time, some kind of like thoughtful things in it. And 2, fun fact, most people don't have the enterprise version. So if you get a document from someone, you can upload that back into ChatGPT and ask it if it wrote it. It will remember because it has all of that information stored in a database somewhere forever. I learned that from my friend who's a high school teacher, and she does that with her kids' essays.
That only if it's exact, or like if they.
It will tell you if there is parts of it.
Yeah, it'll like highlight it. Like
It's like, do you guys remember turnitin.com? It's like turnitin.com, but in ChatGPT.
You could give it a prompt, make this not sound like ChatGPT,
You absolutely can.
make this sound more human.
Yeah.
Remove it from your history.
Yeah, delete yourself. Yeah. It can't go that far, but yeah. But unfortunately,
So,
All right, I got one for you. So, related to resumes. So companies now are conducting, AI-based interviews, web-based interviews. That is an AI.
Yep.
Interviewing a person. And I just saw this morning that somebody sent their AI agent to the interview.
Yeah, oh,
So.
oh my God, yes. Yeah, well, I mean, so when I was at my super small nonprofit that I worked at, I was a fundraiser. And one of the first times I used essentially like a deep fake of myself was I recorded thank you messages to individuals and I used AI to make it personalized for every single person. So I didn't have to record 250 individualized videos. Now that's a little far down the road than I think some people are comfortable with, but you know, that was one of the ways that I was able to really leverage AI to help me do something that there was no chance I was going to be able to do by myself with zero budget. Yeah, mindful of time.
we're good. Yeah, we want to be mindful of time, but happy to answer any more questions. Dean, I'm sorry we didn't get to yours. Dean has this pretty amazing thing that he's been working on. I'm hopeful we're going to be able to share some of that later this year, but as far as like using Codex and WebEx, it's way above
Well, that's a great part too.
what we talked to. But yeah, I think if people are interested,
It's the slides.
yeah, I do have them. I think it'll be beneficial. We can definitely, get another session, but if there's any other last questions, things you want to see really quick, we're happy to.
What else are you using to create like multimedia, like if you're doing like photo, video, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Are you still using chat?
I'm using Nano Banana
Yeah,
and Gemini.
Okay.
yeah, I did landscape redesign with Nano Banana.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
way better.
Yeah, cause I mean, I'll spit things out of it, sometimes just looking for like quick promotional stuff and it's just, I'll be like, this is terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
And then I just do it myself.
You can ask chat too, right? Same thing for like, which should I use for this picture, right? Upscaling pictures as well too is another thing.
Yeah.
Chat won't necessarily give you the best definition, but there's a free upscaler, right? The chat will recommend to you too. So ask chat. I mean,
Yeah, but
I don't even use
I
Google.
don't use Google
I go straight to chat.
because it can hyperlink stuff. Well, now.
Yeah.
So, any other? Yeah.
Justin, can I get your contact at Denver Elevator? That's a really good price.
Yeah, sure. So you got a hydraulic elevator too?
Yeah.
Don't forget to fill out your survey, thank you.
Oh, yeah, and if you wouldn't mind doing the survey, I would love your feedback. It's four quick questions.
Well, thanks all.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
One another hour of that.
I know.
I'm happy to do part two. Yeah,
That was like the hope was that we could
Yeah.
kind of like just continue to keep building on this.
So.
It is the more you want to do an FM workshop, I think with this, like maybe like a 2.5 hour workshop.
We didn't even get to agents.
We didn't get
Or
to
deep
agents, we didn't
research.
do contract
We didn't
reviews.
do, yeah, there's
Seeing
a
the
whole
whole
bunch.
things.
Yeah.
Can you include the slides that I sent you in the handouts?
Yeah,
So-
print them out, yeah. I got them all printed.
One of the things I was gonna share, was what you talked about was projects and custom GPTs.
Yeah.
So what I have in there in the last page, there's some links. And what I've provided is something called Project Builder. It is a project that when you load it up, it will build projects for you. This is an example of a question and answer. It asks you all kinds of questions about what do you want it to do. This is just a summary of what it
Yeah, I have
came back
printed